Okay, so now what we just want to have just a quick discussion about, and it's not supposed to be exhaustive, just a little bit of information there, is to understand, well, what's a free trade agreement? Okay, when we're talking about going into an international market, we talked about tariffs and barriers and all those sort of things to trade, taxes, etc. Makes things really complicated. So in order to try and make things a little bit more smooth, across the globe there's an expanding network of free trade agreements out there. Okay, so what they're really talking about is high quality, comprehensive free trade agreements between countries, designed really to help increase trade liberalisation. Okay, and it's under the World Trade Organization rules, really to give people a framework by which their two countries can cooperate. Okay, so the idea being is that we're trying to simplify a process between two countries. Australia trades with various countries on a regular and ongoing basis. It's the backbone of a lot of our trade. So we want to make sure that there's as smooth a process between those two, reduce confusion, encourage trade, get them working back and forth, import, export, etc. And how do we make that as seamless and painless as possible? Okay, to try and encourage it. So what a free trade agreement normally covers is it can be an agreement between two countries, or it can be across a region. Okay, so it might incorporate more than one country. So, I guess, overseas you might have, across the EU, they come up with a simplified way that countries can trade between each other. Okay, under the agreements, what really happens there is that the countries enter into legally binding agreements between the two, which is there to help liberalise access to each other's markets. So what we're trying to do is we're getting the two countries together, forming an agreement at that high level, a legal document that says how they're going to allow access to each other's market, okay? And trying to make it, once again, as straightforward as they can, so that companies have just got one set of frameworks they're trying to operate within and stimulate those things along. Okay, it also talks usually about things like intellectual property rights, okay? Because the problem is in certain countries, they're gonna have very different laws about, well, what's intellectual property and what's fair game. I don't want to take my product, which is protected in a local market, put it into an international market, and then find that when I put it in there, they didn't have any intellectual property laws and people have just stolen my idea or my patents. So what they're trying to do is at a high level, they're enshrining, well, what are the common protections we need to have in each other's markets? Okay, so that gives people confidence to start to move into them. Okay, now the Australian government won't enter into any sort of agreement with any country that falls short of the benchmarks set by the WTO. So the World Trade Organization, they really set the details about what's expected. Okay, so when countries are starting to get together and they're making a free trade agreement, World Trade Organization is the governing body that they're really looking at, which are there to really encourage making high quality, liberalising trade deals. Okay, so that's like an oversight, and they provide a bit of a framework there so that countries can make sure that everything's actually working the way they want it to. So you've got a couple of different types of agreements. You can have things like your multilateral, you can have a bilateral trade agreement, you can have a regional trade agreement. So, is it multiple countries? Is it what's the region? Is it a big picture? Is there a free trade agreement between two countries, for example? Or is it, the whole region? How are they doing this? And that's worth looking up. There are a bunch of different free trade agreements in place at the moment. There were initially 7, and that's starting to include, and we're starting to expand that out. There's the, between ourselves, New Zealand, Singapore, Thailand, United States, Chile. We're starting to look at the ASEAN region, okay? Okay, so ASEAN is starting to look at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Okay, so that's our whole area. Southeast Asia is a pretty big region. Obviously, and also Malaysia is another one there. Okay, so the countries covered by these free trade agreements, okay, that covers actually 26% of our overall trade is covered in these agreements. Okay, so they are quite large. They are certainly out there, and they're going to assist you work out where you need to be. Okay, we're also looking at bilateral agreements, with, negotiations in China, the Gulf Cooperation, APEC, etc. There's quite a lot of different formats out there, and what you need to do is start to have a look at, well, what is the region you're going into? Where can I get the information? And really, your first port of call is finding out where do I want to go, and then looking up Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and if you're not on there, Austrade as well. Okay, so DFAT is dfat.gov.au/FTA. Okay, and what that'll do is that'll be able to give you, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade will be able to give you a whole pile of information about, well, you know, what are the free trade agreements applicable in the area I want to go into, what do they cover, what sort of information's there, and that's a great port of call if you think about going internationally, okay? So once again, between them and Austrade, there's a lot of guidance there to help you come up with some decision making, a lot of statistics on those countries that you might want to go into. There's just a wealth of information that we couldn't possibly cover just in this format. So you need to start digging through there and seeing if that's up for you, all right? So free trade agreement, binding between countries, there to help assist trade and liberalise access to each other's markets, form common understandings, form common protections, promote trade between the countries, establish good frameworks, information available there, crack on and jump into it. If that's what you're interested in, there's a whole world of information. You know, happy studying out there, good luck with that.